Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and miscellaneous and sundriest creatures. And anybody else. Anybody at all. My name is Faye. This is my channel, Smart Cat's Lost Dog. Welcome to the art world. Or my part of the art world, because I'm not really part of the main art world. That's like, oh, I have a cut on my hand. Where did I get that? The main art world is just confusing to me. I like my little section of it. That's beside the point. I did more art. You're surprised, aren't you? Yeah. I did more art. This time I was splotching around. I had this drawing that I did, oh goodness, probably well over a year ago. Like maybe 2 years ago. It's been a long time since I did this drawing that I started with. I couldn't decide what to do with it. I was like, had it in this paper I got, this interesting laminated cold press paper, because I buy art supplies that I find interesting because I want to play with them and use them. And that's what I did. And so I have this cold laminated watercolor paper board, something, it's kind of thick. And I drew this wonderful picture on it. And I stared at it and said, I don't know what to do at this point. Happens. Lots of things happen. But I did. I stared at it and said, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where I want to go with it from here. I'm kind of afraid to do anything with it because I like this drawing and I feel like I'm going to screw it up. This is a refrain I hear a lot from students, and I understand it because it is definitely part of life. You do something and you think, ooh, I really like it at this point. If I do anything else to it, it'll screw it up and make it like crap. And you know what? Sometimes it does. Sometimes you draw something, you add to it, and you don't like it, and it becomes crappy, and you go, I hate it. Yeah. You can throw it away at that point. It's up to you. You could keep it, too. That is also up to you. You can also take that artwork that you go, I hate it, it's crap, I screwed it up, and you could do it again. Generally, if you do it again, you kind of know what you did to screw it up to begin with, so you can change things and not screw it up. Imagine that. Change things and not screw. Learn from our mistakes. There's a concept. There is a concept right there. So much of a concept. I have to pause a moment for that concept. Yeah. Anyway, you can learn from your mistake and you can do it again. Or you can even take that artwork that you screwed up, in your words, in your idea, in your head, which may or may not be screwed up to anybody else who looks at it. Generally not, because most of the time artists are harder on their work than people who look at it. Did you know that? Well, now you do. So you could take it and you could do more stuff with it and see what happens. Because it doesn't have to be perfect every time. Art doesn't have to be perfect when you finish it. Art doesn't have to be finished when you finish with it. I know, weird. Weird concepts. So, I have my artwork here, and I decided I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't know what. So it sat for like over 2 years. 2 years, over a year, a long time. It sat in this sketchbook, or this book, going, do 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 something with me. No, I'm not a good singer. So I took it out. I looked at it and I'm like, ah, hell. I'm just going to splash, see what happens. Which is what I did. So I got some inks, different inks, because I like ink. And ink comes in colored forms. And this was acrylic ink. So I was using acrylic ink instead of India ink. They have different properties that are kind of fun. They can be used kind of similarly, but they won't look the same. Everything you do looks a little different. How you use your tools make them look different, because that's fun. So I got out my ink, I got out my artwork, and I just dribbled. Did I dribble? I didn't dribble. I don't play basketball. I did go to a basketball game the other day, but I don't play basketball. So I put ink on there. I smeared water on there. I smeared the water around. I put ink on it. I smeared the ink around, and I'm like, I like that. That worked. So then I thought to myself, okay, what next? I still want to do ink. I still want to do the acrylic ink but I want to make sure my lines are visible because they kind of fade a little bit. So I went back in with India ink over the acrylic ink. Works really well, actually, with a brush, tiny brush. I notice when I do my artwork sometimes, my hand movements are interesting. Plus, what's also interesting is how I hold a tool or utensil. It changes as I'm going, which also makes me think of when I was younger and they tried to make me write with my pencil held a certain way because there was something about stress on your hand, and if you write this way, it's less stressful for your hand muscles, and if you write this way and whatnot. And I never liked that. I never did. I didn't like that at all. It was very uncomfortable for me when they did that to my pencils. And needless to say, it didn't stick. Totally did not stick. So I didn't do that. I didn't keep my pencils held in that certain way. And everything I do, I hold my pencil slightly differently, which affects how the lines work. Yeah, work? Anyway, it affects the artwork. So don't let anybody tell you have to hold something a certain way. Don't let anybody tell you have to hold a pencil this way for it to work. Don't let anybody tell you have to hold a brush a certain way for it to work. Now, tips and whatnot can help, but that doesn't mean that they are the be-all, end-all. Make your own choices on that. Get some guidance. Take what works. Put aside what doesn't. But don't be afraid to experiment. And I did. Took my ink, more ink. And then I got out I got this graphite acrylic ink a while back. I used it a couple times. It's really interesting. It's like a pencil color, like a grayish pencil, but it's ink. And it's glittery. It's kind of shiny and glittery. You can't really see that in this video very much because the lighting doesn't pick it up, but it has a shiny, glittery kind of effect. Well, I say the lighting doesn't pick it up, but sometimes the lighting does, sometimes it doesn't. So I use that. Now, the thing with that is it doesn't get super dark. It gets silvery, but it doesn't get black, which is something to think about when you're using it, or when I was using it. That's why some of the areas gets grayer, but they don't actually get black, which was something I figured out while I was doing this painting. Things you learn. But I added the graphite ink, and then I wanted to add more color to certain areas, and I wanted some blacks. So I pulled out different colors of acrylic ink, added some greens to it, some more green to it, and a little bit of brownish to it. Added some highlights. Well, actually, I didn't add the highlights until after I added some more black ink, so I could bring out some more of those darker tones in some of those areas. Because as I put stuff on top of it, it covers up that ink a little bit and makes it dull down. So again, come back in later, add more ink, puts it on the surface, and so it's on top of all those layers. Layers are important in art, especially in digital art. Layers in digital art are your lifesaver and your irritation. Both. So I added the colors and I added some highlights, and it turned out really well. I like how this one turned out. It's very shiny because some of the inks I used were iridescent, but again, you can't see it super well in the lighting, but I like this one. This one turned out really well. Surprisingly enough, or not surprisingly enough, I do like this one. And thank you for watching and listening to me babble. I appreciate that. And obviously I have more videos on here that you can watch me do artwork and babble. If you got any questions, obviously ask. There's all that YouTube stuff you're supposed to do, but have a super awesome, fantabulous day. And if you watch my videos, you'll see me again later. Bye.